welcome back to AWS on-air coverage at reInvent 2023. We're here in the Expo Hall. We just covered our application composer. Now we're covering generative AI workflows with step functions. My name is Gigi Behringer. I'm a product manager here at AWS and one of your hosts today. I'm also joined by my best friend, he's been upgraded to today. AM.
I did it.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I don't know what I did to earn the title, but I'll take it. That's how I've gotten most things in my life. Anyway, I'm AM Grabelny. I'm a developer advocate. Nice to see you all. I'll be on here all day, off and on. But we've got a guest with us.
Yes.
Justin, please tell the people.
Hi, my name is Justin. I'm the general manager for AWS Step Functions.
Nice. We were just talking step functions.
Lots of step functions, love. Great to see you.
Yeah, with your friends at App Composer, where I can now build in Step Function Studio, Workflow Studio, straight in App Composer.
That's right. Really cool.
Yeah,
we got a lot of really fun stuff we've been sharing here at reInvent, and I'm here to share some other stuff.
All right. So, Justin, before we jump in to all the cool stuff that y'all are launching, for anybody who's never used Step Functions before, how do I understand it?
Yeah, so Step Functions is it's a workflow service. It's a visual workflow service. And so you can define these workflows using the model of a state machine. You have multiple states. The output of one state goes as input to the next, and you can use this to chain together multiple steps in your application. They can be done sequentially, or you can have branching logic using choice states. You can also introduce parallelism, so you can have things running static parallelism or dynamically. And so it's completely serverless, and you can scale this from a single workflow execution up to millions. No infrastructure for you to manage.
Very cool. Maybe a question for Google. Do you have to pay for how much you use, or is it no infrastructure? So
yeah, so you only pay per use. That's right. So we have two models. We have the standard workflows. You pay per state transition in those, and with express workflows, you pay for each invocation and the duration that it runs.
Very cool. Thank you.
I love the understated, just tossed out there millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just no big deal.
Just millions.
Yeah, just millions. That's not significant.
Is that a scale we're seeing a lot of customers use it at?
Yeah, it is actually. So what people love about it, that's the power of serverless, where it can go from zero to everything you need full scale, and then scale right back down for you, and you only pay for what you use. So because the standard workflows, they run for up to a year. And so you can have these workflows. And while they're waiting, one of the really nice things about the standard workflows is while they're waiting, you don't pay for it. And so there are very few cases where it's cheap to wait in a service, and so it can be really fantastic. So some people will use these to model business processes that might take months. Maybe there's like a loan processing or some insurance claim processing. They'll be able to use these and have one-to-one mapping with workflows in their business domain.
We also heard from your friends over in the Lambda function world. Julian Wood came and joined us yesterday and told us all about the improvements to scaling that have been happening, which were incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, 5x times improvements in some of these areas that he was talking us through without anything needed from me as a developer. Always great to hear.
And one of the things we're super excited about in this is we have a feature in Step Functions called distributed map. I talked about map state and parallelism. And with distributed map, you can process millions of objects in S3. You can batch them. You can run up to 10,000 child workflow executions in parallel. And so with the scaling that we now delivered with Lambda, people use these together, and they can really scale up to match that scale. And the processing capabilities that you can accomplish are really just astounding.
Yeah. You mentioned standard, and there's also express, obviously.
Correct.
Do you want to talk through a little bit about the difference between the two?
Yeah, sure. So standard workflows, they use what we call an at most once execution model. And so they make sure that each step in your workflow, that we only run that only once unless you tell us to do more through retries. And so these are really good for workflows. Maybe you are doing things that are expensive. Maybe you're processing a payment. You need to be very careful that you don't do that more than once. It can be really helpful for that. As I said, they can run for up to a year. And they also store the workflow state in the service, and so then you can go back and get access to that execution history. Our console will visualize that for you, provide some really awesome operational capabilities. So those are fantastic, and those you're built on a per state transition basis. Now, There are some cases where people want to use workflows where they're short-lived, they run really fast, and this model, it doesn't work quite as well. And so that's why we have express workflows. So with express workflows, they're a bit different. They have an at least once execution model. So they may run more than once, and you need to have item potency built into what you're doing there. They only run up to 5 minutes, and they don't store the state in the service, so you can optionally put them up to logs. And through this, they get tremendous scale and speed capabilities. And the great thing is you can use these together. I talked about that distributed map feature. You can use that within your standard workflow, and then you can specify the sub-processors to be express workflows. And so it's a great way to mix and match and get the best price performance.
That's awesome. I mean,
very cool.
Look, orchestration makes a lot of sense in this case. You've mentioned map a couple times, which, for data processing, that should be a term a lot of people are familiar with, right? Map reduce is what they're typically doing when you're working with data. Can you give us more tangible examples of what people are building with step functions?
Yeah, so so first off, they use it a lot with Lambda.
Right.
So we've had customers say these services, Lambda and step functions, they're like peanut butter and chocolate. They just go together. And when you use step functions with Lambda, you can really keep your Lambda functions simple. They don't have to worry about retries. They don't have to worry about state management. They don't have to worry about centralized logging and observability. They can just take an event payload, process that using your business logic, and return it and let step functions do the rest.
Right.
And then you can compose those functions to use in different flows. So we see them using a lot together. We see them using a lot, customers using a lot with ECS, ECS Fargate. And also we have a feature called activities that you can run your tasks on EC2 or on-prem. So we use it all over the place. Now, some of the cool things people use them for are a high-scale event processing, multi-step event processing in their event-driven architectures using the asynchronous form of express workflows.
Yes.
They'll use the synchronous version that we have behind API Gateway to orchestrate multi-step responses to an API request. Okay. They'll use standard workflows to do a lot of IT automation type scenarios. And one thing we see a lot lately is serverless data processing with Lambda and this distributed map feature. And so if you're here at reInvent, you can go over to the modern apps area later, some great demos of some really, really cool stuff that people are doing.
One of my favorite features is the direct service integrations too, because every time I get to write less code, I make less mistakes, right? Let's be real.
Makes everyone happier, really.
When I write less code, it does make people happier.
I'm in that same boat.
Can you tell us about those service integrations?
Yeah, for sure. So we have so Step Functions has direct integration with pretty much every AWS service. And so we have two classes of service integrations. We have SDK service integrations, which they give you basically as-is access to everything that's available in the SDK. A few caveats there. And these we refresh on a regular basis, so when new capabilities come up in AWS, you get access to that pretty quick.
Nice.
We also have what we call optimized integrations, and as the name implies, those provide some refinements, make it a little bit easier to use this within step functions. So they might do some things like simplify handling of the input-output. In the case of our integration with EMR, it composes a couple of API calls into one to make it a lot simpler to use. And we also have a service integration pattern we call .sync that puts kind of a synchronous facade on top of asynchronous processing. So you can think of it like async await. So you maybe have a glue job that you're running, where in glue you'll call start that job, it'll run in the background and it'll complete. When you just put .sync, step functions behind the scenes will just keep track of all of that for you, make sure that it completes, and then when it's done, and so you don't need to put a whole bunch of polling logic into your workflow.
Very cool.
Very nice. So you led us there a little bit into that optimized integration. That's something we're talking about today with Bedrock, right?
It is, yeah. So we just launched an optimized integration for Amazon Bedrock. So I expect most people are aware Amazon Bedrock provides access to foundation models through a standard API. Really, really amazing capability of making these generative AI LLMs available. Now, when people work and build these generative AI applications, they tend to need a lot of orchestration. So we see people using patterns like prompt chaining, where they'll break down interactions with the foundation model into discrete steps, makes things simpler and more reliable. They'll use retrieval augmented generation, where they'll maybe grab data from somewhere else and combine that to make the responses from the foundation model more effective. Or they may need to do things in batches. And so orchestration is a necessity, and it fits really well with step functions. And so with this integration, you can build with Bedrock, and you can take advantage of all the capabilities you have in step functions, the visual authoring capabilities, the visual operator experience, the automated error handling, all of this. Get started with building GenAI applications quickly, and have them such that they're production ready right out of the gate.
Very nice. That sounds like
So
it's a lot more approachable to me than than Bedrock felt before.
yeah, yeah, we hope so. We hope so. We think it'll be very helpful in getting people started and getting familiar. There's so many possibilities. I think we're really just scratching the surface in what people are going to do with these things, and it's really exciting to provide some capabilities to help people get going faster.
Would you mind showing us those capabilities?
Sounds like something I want to see.
Let's see.
I know.
Okay.
I'm excited to see this.
So I'm going to pop into the step functions console here, and we have a. So here I'm going to start with a new state machine. So this is Workflow Studio, our visual authoring experience. So this is fantastic. I talked about all of those service integrations. So if you come and look down here, you can see access. So you basically see all of AWS right before your eyes.
Wow.
You can look at each of these. You can find them by scrolling through. You can search through some really cool setup. So what I'm going to first do is say, my on-air demo Bedrock. So I'm going to name my state machine. This is where I choose between standard and express. And I talked about the built-in production readiness features. So I'm going to just turn on logging. This means it'll automatically log my results off to CloudWatch Logs. And I'm going to enable X-ray tracing. And then I'm going to pop back here over into the designer. And let's get started here. Type in Bedrock, and here I can see the invoke model API action. So to start with, I can come in here. If I have provisioned models, I can use those, or I could just use the base ones that are available.
Got it. And can you, for anyone who hasn't had the chance to explore Bedrock yet, just quickly give the definitions of foundation models versus provisioned models?
Yeah, sure. So the foundation models are the ones that AWS makes available for you automatically.
Got it.
You can also take some of those and you can provision concurrency and capacity so that you can use, maybe that is for your production needs, you need more. You can also fine-tune those models with your own data.
Very cool. Thank you. I also didn't know that. I said it was for everyone at home. It was for me.
All right. So I'm going to use Claude here, and I'm just going to say, write a paragraph describing the city of Las Vegas. Okay. So there you go. Now I'm gonna click create, and this screen is important too. So one of the things we do with our optimized integrations is they allow step functions to understand the structure of your state machine and help generate IAM roles automatically. Really helpful. We know working with IAM incredibly powerful, but it can be a steep learning curve for folks.
Complex IAM? I've never heard that.
Not supposed to use the C word.
Low risk.
So here, now we'll automatically create it for you. Right.
No.
And so here, now I can see, and I can pop over to IAM.
Take a look at it.
And you'll see here, it's added the privileges I needed for X-Ray and CloudWatch.
Very nice.
It's also added here for Bedrock, and you can see it's done it in the least privileged manner. So this role can only access that model. And so using IAM, getting access to things you want, making sure you don't have access to things you don't is really important, and this makes it really simple. So I'm going to pop back over here, and I'm going to reopen Workflow Studio. And I'm going to use actually another feature that we just launched, which is this new test state capability. We're really excited about this. This allows you to take an individual state in your workflow and to test how it works and how it behaves independently of the entire workflow. So I'm going to pop that open here. And I'm going to run this. And right now, what this is doing is making an API call to Step Functions. Step Functions is running this task behind the scenes, and now I get my response from Bedrock. Now, when I look at this, I can see it's actually been a bit truncated, and I can see that the stop sequence was the reason that it completed. So I want to make sure that I get the entire response to the paragraph. So I'm going to come back here, and here is one of the parameters that are available for Claude, which is the max tokens to sample. So I'm going to update that. Come back here.
And you didn't have to save it in order to test
That's
the new
right.
version.
That's right. I just could do it live without going through. This saves you having to go through a save, rerun it, balancing through different parts of the console.
Got it. And if you didn't save it, you could exit, come back, and it'd be the way it was
Correct.
Pre-save after any testing.
That's right.
Very nice.
That's right. So now I can see it went all the way through to the stop sequence. So that's kind of cool. But I'm like, well, I don't want to have this hard-coded. So I want to make this dynamic. So you'll see here this, if I switch to this view, you'll see the Amazon States language, which is the domain-specific language for the workflows. And so Workflow Studio allows you to switch between those. Most times you're better off using the Visual Designer, but I just kind of wanted to show you how that worked. And so what I want to do is make this dynamic. And so what I can do is put this $, which then tells step functions that this is a dynamic key. So I'm going to use either a JSON path to point to a piece of input, or use what we have called intrinsic functions that we can use to sort of manipulate those. And I'm going to use something called states.format. Anyone who is a Python developer should be familiar with this function. It allows you to templatize this text. There we go. And I'm going to say, well, let's put this in the $city variable. I'll give it a try. I'll save that. I didn't need to do that, but I decided to anyway. So I click on here, and I guess you can turn on this debug model. So now, see, right away it failed.
Oh, interesting.
And so the reason it failed, I can look at this and says, oh, because I didn't pass it any input.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whoops. So now I'm going to go in here and I go, okay, city.
And this is a key piece of step functions. As you chain them together,
Correct.
You pass values between the two. It actually came up in chat asking about using something like stable diffusion for an image.
Yep.
What do I do? Do I get the base64 string? Do I save it to S3? All kinds.
We'll get there.
Okay,
We'll
awesome.
get there?
As long as you have time for me, we'll get there.
Yes,
Okay.
we get
Okay.
about 3 minutes.
We have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah,
So now-
let's get there, though. I want to
So here,
do that, too.
now I have this. And we can see it's going to take it dynamically for me. So I'm going to pop back to, you wanted to see stable diffusion. So now what I'm going to do is, let's go back to this example. And let's say, I'm going to switch models. And so say here, I want to say, draw me a picture of Las Vegas in the style of Ansel Adams.
Oh.
Right? Okay, so let's give this a try. And I'm going to, I would need to update that IAM role, so I've just got another one ready for me here.
Nice.
Just to make this easy. So now I'm going to try this, and now it's going to call off to stable diffusion. And you're going to notice something here is that it fails.
Yeah.
And so the reason it fails is that response exceeds the size limit for state payload that step functions has. And so now this is part of what we did as a part of this this integration is, I'm just going to grab the URI here that I prepared before. What I can do is go into this additional configuration, and I can say, write that straight to S3.
Oh, okay.
And I can go down here, and I can say the image response, image. Maybe I can spell
Today,
G,
maybe. Yeah.
right? And then I can come back here. And if I did this properly, you'll now see that runs, and the image is over here. And so now I can pop over
Very
to S3. I can open this thing up, download it. And let me just grab here. And
See what we got. Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so this is really
That's
really
fun.
great. So the ones that have those
Yeah.
larger outputs, we also have, I didn't show it here, but you can have the input come from S3 as well. Helps you get over the cases where these are binary or larger than the state payload would allow.
And if you didn't catch that at home, Justin didn't write any code
No
to
code.
upload to S3. There was
That's right.
no calls to the S3 SDK that he had to write.
That's right.
Step functions handled it
All
all.
taken care of for you.
Yeah, that's the kind of service that I want to interact
Awesome.
with, right?
Yeah.
All right, Gigi, we got about a minute left. Any
I
final
think
thoughts?
I do have one question,
Yeah.
and it might be silly. So you tell me. It might be not the cleanest. But so how, I guess, when you're running this and you're running it with Bedrock, you need more compute power.
Mhm.
So how is step functions integration with Bedrock automatically handling how much compute power you need?
On the Bedrock side?
Yeah.
No, it's just a direct integration with the Bedrock API.
Okay.
And so Bedrock with Bedrock, we have the capability to provision, to get additional capacity to meet those needs. And so it just works exactly
Just
with that, just
Doing
as
it all
is.
for you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
it'd be as if you called the API from
Correct.
your application.
Yes, yeah. This step functions, you saw that IAM role, so that's a role that you create in your account. You provide permissions for step functions to assume that role for you, and then it executes all of these requests just as if they were you using your role. And so this is a great way for you to control the access that you want. We even have the ability for it to assume a role in another account. So say maybe you would want to have one account where you had fine-tuned models, provisioned models, and you wanted to have that accessible to a whole bunch of accounts, but you didn't want to pay for that across all of those. You could have it in one account, and then step functions can assume a role, access that across account, and again, no code for you to run with that, no need for you to worry with special permissions, etc.
Justin, you made chat very happy with your demo.
Okay.
They're very pleased. So unfortunately, we got to run to our next segment. But thank you for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Thanks for showing us all this. This is amazing.
This is really great.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.